Welcome everyone to this talk tent this afternoon. My name's Catherine and I will be hosting this panel talk for you. I am joined by Dr. Lolita and Cara. So we're going to be talking about mind and gut health. And if I could trouble you both to introduce yourselves first of all, because I feel like they will probably do it better than I ever could. So we'll start with Dr. Lolita, please.
Yeah. So hi everyone. First of all, it's so lovely to be here. I've just finished my breathwork session and I came out, the sun's out, and I know we've had like bits of rain. It's so lovely. So first of all, hello everyone. So my name's Lolita. I'm a psychologist. I'm also the author of the book High Functioning Anxiety. So I tend to specialize and work with individuals who are very go, very busy, show up there, they're there for everyone else. But underneath that, there's so much going on. And sometimes we don't know how to give ourselves the space to tune into that part. So that tends to be a lot of the work that I do. And often that resorts to like retreats, workshops, working one-to-one with people, and just different projects that focuses on work focused around that. Cara, your turn.
Thank you. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Lolita. How lovely to be here, seeing lots of lovely faces, few familiar ones as well. So yes, my name is Cara and I'm the founder of The Mindful Gut, which sounds very zen until you realise it mostly means I talk about poo in public.
Rock and roll.
So I hope you're all just
ready
prepare yourselves. Yes.
Okay, great. Prepare yourself.
Very mindfully, though, I would add. So yes, I do work that is deeply aligned with my own story, and I'm probably going to that a bit more later. Yeah. I run retreats and workshops, and I work with individuals really from a holistic perspective. I want to really emphasize that. My lens on gut health is looking at all of you. And it's looking at our environment, because we can't separate at what's happening in here with our whole body and our wider environment around us.
Amazing. Thank you both. Right. So let's just start with a question about, could you share a little bit about your personal journey and what led you to dedicate your work to well-being? So Dr. Lolita, can we start with you?
Yeah. So just to say, where did it all begin? And I think each and every one of us will have a journey that has brought us to just share the work that we do. So my own journey, my dad, he was born in India. He came here as an immigrant trying to look for better opportunities. And growing up as a second generation, you see the world in a very different way. You're always questioning things. And I've always seen and I've always been a sensitive individual, not really understanding things. And life, as it's continued to unfold, things have come up, and I've naturally fallen into the space of going into a therapy space, trying to understand more about my own patterns, and just realizing that life is so much more than what we realize, and looking at people, feeling and understanding how emotions show up, not just in ourselves, but also with others, how we are a reflection of other people. But everything that we're feeling comes from within ourselves. And sometimes you don't have these tools growing up. So for me, it's almost like I've led life, I've experienced life, and you go through different experiences, but then you need to understand, how do they really hold value to you? What are the things that are coming up? So for me, therapy is really important because it allows you to do your inner work. Inner work meaning you understand more about why you feel what you feel. So when you see people, you don't get lost in self-doubt. You don't get lost in your inner critic. You don't get lost in big emotions like shame and guilt, but really learning how to regulate. So for me, it's not just about intellectually understanding, but going deeper, which is where I went further into spaces of yoga, breath work. Because for me, again, very similar to what Cara said, it's not just about what's going on up here and understanding things here. It's feeling everything, because we are sensitive beings, we are emotional beings. And the way that we're tuned into the world, it's just knowing how we feel and what's going on. So for me, I've just lived the experience. And now, because I've been in spaces where I didn't understand myself, I want to give that back to others. And that's really important for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And how about you, Cara? What kind of led you to working in the well-being space?
I resonate with so much that Lolita's already shared. I often think our passions have come out of our personal experience. And I think if I permission for a moment to go back in time, I'm a 80s child. I'm looking around a bit. And when I was a toddler, I had quite a serious chest infection that led me to have several courses of antibiotics. That I now, with my mindful gut hat on, I can see would have wiped out my lovely child microbiome. So I would have lost to lots of species of bacteria. And this was in the 80s. No one was talking about the gut microbiome back then. And I became a child who was kind of sickly, had a lot of health issues as a child. And then I became a teenager and I had chronic debilitating anxiety. Depression, bloated belly, bad skin, the whole thing.
The works,
yeah, basically. Yeah. And no one connected the dots. Nobody. Back and forth to GP, trying to get a diagnosis. I think probably many of us have been there. And then eventually I was studying at university in London. I ended up going to A&E. I had had a diagnosis of inflammatory bowel disease. So I had a systemic inflammation in my body, but particularly in my gut. And kind of ended up in my early 20s in hospital here in Birmingham. Admitted to the emergency rooms, all the tests. And I remember looking in the mirror, like this moment of looking in the mirror when I arrived into hospital, and I was just bleeding. I was just bleeding, like massive internal hemorrhaging. And I've got freckles, for those of you sitting close. And I just remember my freckles just looked like dark dots because I was so pale. It's just completely, my body was just shutting down. And I woke up in the middle of the night, and I remember the nurses coming over and saying, we need to put another drip. We need to add another drip because her blood pressure is so low. And I basically had an experience of leaving my body. And I didn't talk about it at the time. I had no words for it. I had no way of making sense of it. I was given very powerful intravenous steroids, which started to calm down the inflammation in my body. I stayed in hospital for a couple of weeks and slowly started to recover. And when I was leaving, I kind of had this prescription, like you're on this prescription for this anti-inflammatory medication for life. You're probably going to lose your colon because it's been so terrible, the inflammation. You're pretty much likely to going to leave it. And that's kind of it. See you later, Cara.
And you were just left to kind of go back out into the world with this inflammatory bowel disease, expecting to just get on with life as if nothing was any different, presumably.
Totally. And it's like the medicine saved my life. The doctors saved my life. I'm really grateful. But what about the next part of the story?
Yeah. And the emotional and psychological impact of that ultimately, I imagine, probably would have been quite great.
Yeah, really significant.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm quite a stubborn person, fortunately. And I was like, hang on a minute. My colon, I got to keep my colon.
I want to keep that. Yeah.
I was like, how do I keep this?
Yeah, I don't know what it does, but I want to keep it.
Yeah. And I remember driving home. My mum, bless her, our gorgeous mum, she picked me up and drove me home. And I was like, I love you. How can I keep you? What do I need to do? I just started talking to my colon, like, I love you. And she was a she, of course.
Obviously.
and so started my journey of really starting to do deep research, and a journey that led me to write my book, which is over here, called Calm Your Gut, and to eventually start my business. And I think the bit that I really want to share actually is, at the moment, I'm starting to do a lot more work with young people in colleges, not only around gut health, which is crucial because we have a gut health crisis in this country. We have growing rates of inflammatory bowel disease. Right. We have growing rates of colon cancer in young people for many, many reasons. It's a really interesting and very important conversation to have. But also because this and this are intimately connected. And there's many, many ways in which our beautiful gut supports and shapes how we feel day to day.
Well, that's really interesting. Thank you. We'll definitely come back to that because I'm really interested in that mind-gut connection for sure. But one of the things I want to touch on is you did mention, that we're living in this constantly overwhelming society at the moment where we're just expected to do more and absorb more and achieve more, and it's just this almost like a constant hamster wheel. Why do you think that stress and anxiety have become such common experiences in our lives? Because if you think back to, you're a child of the 80s, life was so much more simple in the 80s, I'm sure it was. So why do you think that has become so much more prevalent, stress and anxiety? Go for it, Dr. Lolita. Yeah.
So for me, I feel, and I've seen an increase in stress, in anxiety, in people just feeling so overwhelmed. And it's almost like so many people that I'm coming across are in this space of survival mode. So survival mode being that they feel their nervous system is almost like there's a threat, there's always a threat. And that could be waking up and looking at notifications on your phone and seeing all these notifications and thinking, oh, I need to get back to them. And feeling very dysregulated because we haven't got the space to sit, to breathe, to connect, because we always think there's always something to do, there's always something to do, the next thing. But also we have to look into our patterns as well and understand, where did we learn this? And often people wear their success as a badge of honor. So I've done this and I've done this and I've done this. And you go into the office and they're like, yeah, I've done this weekend. And when you say, yeah, I just had a chilled weekend, people may look at you in a certain way, or they don't know how to respond to that, because we do wear this idea of like, I need to be doing as a badge of honor. But it's almost like coming back to, what does it feel like not to just to be with self rather than being a human doing? What does it feel like just to be? And when people come into the therapy space and we talk through that and understanding, going back into patterns that we've developed, and it's not just patterns, it's understanding how the nervous system works as well. So it is working and listening to mind, body, energy. Just like as Cara said, it's very holistic, the work that we're doing. But we are in a place, we are in the world where there's so much noise. It's from notifications, from things that are happening where we need to get back to our friends, our family. We need to go meet this person. We need to do this. We're seeing things on social media. Our brain is just so overwhelmed. There's so many things that are constantly we're just taking in. But do we really get the time to process? So for me, it's really important just to try and limit that noise. So it might be turn your notifications off, have boundaries with the phone, be mindful of like when you're going out. It doesn't mean that just because you have felt that you haven't seen a friend in a long time, you have to fit that in. And then you almost like don't put into your own cup. Look at what do you need to look after yourself. So that for me, that's really important.
I think social media's had an impact as well, hasn't it? Because you are exposed to so many different people, all seemingly achieving all of these additional things that you're there thinking, oh, well, I'm supposed to also be achieving all of those things and doing all of those things. And we forget that actually their social media feed is an entirely curated version of what's actually going on for them. And it might just be a tiny 5% of their actual life, right? Yeah. What do you think, Cara? Do you think that,
Oh, there's so many reasons.
Go for it. We've got plenty of time.
I think connecting with what Lolita's started to share around like our relationship with our phones. I mean, it's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
A relationship with these. I mean, they're gorgeous, like amazing, woo! But they also like pull us, like, don't they? Like pull us in. And I want to just maybe reference an amazing report that came out in February from the Global Healthy Minds report, which surveyed 100,000 people globally. So it's a big report. And it's particularly focused on Gen Z,
right?
Really focusing on young people's health. Yeah. And they decided there's 4 key factors. So one is our relationship with our phone, direct relationship, screen time, and mental health. Too much screen time, I notice it.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I'm on my phone, I get agitated and it makes me feel down.
Yeah.
I do. I'm like, I'm not feeling great this evening. Oh, hang on a minute.
Too long scrolling on social media. Yeah.
And no blame. They're really addictive, designed to be addictive. So relationship with phone, screen time, family breakdown was a global other thing, like complex community breakdown. Food, which is one I obviously focus on a lot, is where there's a growth in ultra processed foods. It has food and mood are deeply connected in a whole host of ways. So growth of ultra processed foods, and we're leading the way in ultra processed foods in Europe. We follow our American cousins.
Need to do better then.
We need to do better. And also spiritual identity. So we have kind of lost some of the traditional religions that would have given us a sense of meaning and identity. So those are the 4 things from the Global Healthy Mind report.
Right. So let's come back to that point that you made about that mind-gut connection then in that case. Just explain to me a little bit more about that, because not everyone might realise that actually there even is any connection between that. So can you, just a few sentences, kind of discuss what you talk about in your book and what that really means? Yes,
I'd love to. I guess the context is that in the 1980s, 2/3 of the food that we ate here in the UK was from scratch cooking, from whole ingredients, and only 1/3 was processed or highly processed. And today that's completely flipped. And we know that over 2/3 of the food that we're eating is industrially produced, industrialized food, and only about 1/3 of the food we eat in this country is what we call from whole ingredients. For young people, that's higher. So Gen Z, we're now having a higher proportion. And in the simplest sense, our beautiful gut bugs, our gorgeous bacteria, really need whole foods. They need fiber. Their main fuel is fiber. And when you industrially process a food, so I had an imaginary apple here. You can imagine that apple. It's got prebiotic. It's got soluble fiber inside of it. Beautiful, smooth digestion. Insoluble around it. It makes things move through this long digestive tract. And when it goes down into your gut, it feeds and fuels your gut bacteria. They're like, great, we recognize this apple. Beautiful. We want it. This is fiber. We can use this to fuel ourselves. And directly, we know that specific species of bacteria also are key in synthesizing things like dopamine and serotonin, these important neurotransmitters that help us to feel good. So healthy bacteria, healthy mind, healthy body. Yeah. When we eat industrialized food, our bacteria are struggling. They're basically struggling. They kind of want to say, take that apple, let's peel it, let's chop it, let's cook it, let's maybe deep fry it in some pastry.
I mean, it sounds lovely, to be honest with you.
And you might be licking your lips. I'm sorry. I mean, this is a food like, it's like stuff designed to...
Sounds great.
Put a dollop of cream on that. But actually what's happening is, when we do that too often, our bacteria the fiber has been broken down. Yeah, the fiber has... So we lost the fiber in the peel. It's broken down. It's been chemically and mechanically broken down. Yeah. So we're losing those basic food structures that actually these guys are ancient. These guys and girls, actually, these bacteria are old. They recognize food. They don't necessarily recognize. And if I was to sum it up really simply, we are eating foods that didn't exist 50 years ago. We're the first generation of humans to eat foods that didn't exist 50 years ago.
I mean, that's wild, isn't it, really, when you think about it, that we're eating things that didn't even exist. So where have they come from? Well, we've produced them, which isn't necessarily that good for us ultimately, is it?
Yeah. But we're also the first generation to experience the physical and mental and microbial fallout of that really dramatic and sudden change to our food environment.
Right, yeah.
And therefore our bacteria are struggling and we're losing some species of bacteria.
So how does that play out in your work then, Dr. Lolita? Does it ever where actually some of the issues that people come to you for are based on the fact that actually perhaps their diet does need to be improved? Does that play out for you?
Yeah. So in the therapy space, we don't just look at and diagnose based on what people are presenting with. It's also going deeper. And there's so many different types of therapists out there and different people doing different things. But for me, it's very holistic. We have to get to the root cause. And it's really important that we understand what the root cause is, because we can get lost in, okay, let's just focus on you're having these thoughts. Okay, let's just challenge these thoughts. But it's like, if we're not changing the environment, then how is that going to help us? It's almost like we're doing the work, but then we're putting ourselves in an environment that's not serving us. So if we're not moving, if we're not eating the right foods, if all of these things, they do impact on how you're feeling. So often, I think I don't know what country it is, but there's a country where doctors, they diagnose you going out and having a walk in nature. Have you heard of that?
What, so that's the treatment?
Yeah,
basically?
That's a treatment that doctors, I forgot what country it is. Sweden. Someone said it, Sweden.
Thank you.
Thank you. So in Sweden, that's what's happening. So and sometimes I feel it, like if I know that I've had a really a draining week, if I just go for a walk and I go into the woods, or I'm in the forest, or I go into the lake, and just almost like reset your nervous system, you feel so different. But it's also what you're consuming. So if you're waking up in the day, you're drinking a Red Bull, you're having a Monster can, all of these things, and you're just continuing the day like that, it's really looking at, how are these things serving me? Do I feel tired and I'm using fuel from things that I know just give me this quick fix, this quick energy, and then I'm having that down, I'm looking for something else, then I pick myself up, then I'm having another sort of low feeling. What are you using around you? What are the things that are going on? Because yes, we can offer or give a diagnosis, but there's so much more. There's so many more layers that exist. And it's also about where have we learned this, because this can also come from things that we've seen from parents, things that we've seen from our siblings or from family. And we think these things it's a norm in our culture, or it's a norm in how you're living life. So when you start tuning in and you're like, oh, there's another way of doing things, or this routine that I've had for all these years, it's not working for me, or actually I do feel like I'm more motivated in the evenings to go out for a walk. So you're really listening to yourself. And for me, that's the part of a big part of the therapy space, is learning what you need, because there are so many tools, there's so many different things out there, but you're tuning into what do I need, and that changes as you continue through life as well. Not just because something might work for you now, in 5 years' time, that might not work for you. So you're just tuning in, listening in. And for me, it's getting to the root. So mind, body, the environment, it is about what you're eating. Everything plays a part.
Absolutely. So can we just touch a little bit on high functioning anxiety, because it seems to be quite a buzzword, and actually I think it's really difficult to recognize, I think, in a lot of us. You know, we just kind of get on with our day and keep going, and you know, how do you start to recognize that perhaps you might be sitting in a space of high functioning anxiety, and what would you then start to do about it?
Yeah, thank you. So this is my favorite question because I love
amazing.
talking about this. So I always say it's a bit like the swan analogy. So when we see the swan, it's almost like it looks like it's gliding along the water, but it's not, because underneath it's sort of paddling along. And what tends to happen is that's how we are in life. We look, or people will see us and people notice that, oh, that person's got it all together, but they don't see what's going on underneath. And often you might be someone who is your go, go, go. You're always the one who shows up to meetings, shows up to friends, always the one with a smile on your face. But internally, that's not how you're feeling. You might be feeling isolated, disconnected. You might be feeling lonely. And often high functioning anxiety is linked to loneliness, where you feel that people don't truly see you. People can't hold space for you. People don't know how to listen to what might be going on for you. So you're the one who then ends up being there for everyone else. But this doesn't just start in our adult years. It comes from our early years, where maybe our parents weren't emotionally available. And I'm not going back and doing the typical therapy thing, blaming parents, but it's about understanding why you show up the way that you do. Where did you learn that your needs don't matter? Because essentially the root of high functioning anxiety is you not feeling good enough. So you overcompensate, you overgive, you overdo, and you're exhausted. Like, everyone's exhausted by it. But it's because people don't know how to allow themselves just to be, because they're so used to doing, and they don't know who they are when they almost like stop doing. So often the therapy space is that space to learn who you are, learn who you are behind this mask of high functioning anxiety, because there's a beautiful person underneath, and it's you learning to know and get to know, like, this is what I like to do, or just because everyone else is doing this, I don't have to do this, or how do I set boundaries? How do I learn to regulate guilt and start to just feel into the shame? Because again, high functioning anxiety, you're avoiding certain feelings. You're avoiding feeling into shame or guilt because you don't know how to regulate them. And as soon as you do, things start to change. And another layer of high functioning anxiety is that you're very sensitive as an individual. So you'll notice things, you'll feel things, you'll know when someone's in a bad mood or someone's not their right self because of the way that they're walking or their tone of voice, and you just feel things so much. So when you're feeling things, you're not taking it personally because you're learning that this belongs to them and it's not mine to carry. So there's a real process of high functioning anxiety. I'm going to stop now because I'm going to
I mean, I could listen to you for hours, to be fair. So I am a huge advocate of therapy. I've had therapy for a very long time. My parents both passed away, and obviously the impact of that was massive. So what I would want to say is, if you are ever considering it, don't be scared of it, because actually it's such a powerful process to go through. And it's people like you who obviously help people through those difficult times. And even, you know, maybe there's not something specific, but you're just feeling misaligned. And actually the power of going and speaking to someone who really doesn't know you, and therefore there's no judgment, no expectation, is really powerful. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Cara, what about the impact from your perspective in terms of the gut and that kind of high functioning anxiety? Do you find that actually anxiety to a certain extent is caused ultimately by what we're ingesting?
Yes, I think there's such a beautiful interplay, isn't there? We're such complex beings, aren't we? I often talk about a head, heart and gut, and we can carry trauma with a small t or a big T. We can have all sorts of history that affects us in different ways, especially when we're sensitive. And in terms of anxiety, I definitely, I guess I have an invitation, which is when you eat food, I think there's something about really tuning into how it makes you feel. And, you know, I just was talking about my beautiful apple pie, deep fried apple pie earlier on, or whatever thing you particularly love. And particularly where we have favourite foods, because one of the things that I find really fascinating, that still really surprises me after many years of studying the gut, is that our gut bugs can drive some of our behaviours. So we have this beautiful long nerve, the 10th cranial nerve called the vagus nerve, which comes out of our brain and goes down, threads through our body, along the neck, down, and it roots itself in the gut. And it's this nerve that our gut bacteria use to communicate between our gut and our brain.
Wow. So when they talk about looking after your vagus nerve and is it calming your vagus nerve? Then that actually the impact of that is massive, right?
Yes, absolutely. And actually you're just talking about therapy, even in being in a safe space and being heard, that can create a sense of calm. That can create a sense of calm in terms of our anxiety immediately starts to, okay. But also what we eat can absolutely influence our anxiety. And we talk about it, don't we? We know when we have a lot of sugar or a lot of caffeine, that kind of jittery feeling. I can see it. And that jitteriness. And you can have something on one day and you're fine. And the next day, for whatever reason, maybe you're busy, you've got a work pressure, you've got a deadline. Actually, you just can't process it. Yeah. So there's I think it's about, I talk a lot about that kind of interoception of like that awareness inward. How does it make you feel? Because we give a lot of our power away to experts to tell us what to eat and what to do. But actually, you're the expert. You know, every time I have that, every time I have that extra cup of coffee, every time I have that extra sugary, and that can absolutely add to our sense of dysregulation, high blood sugar, kind of jittery feeling. Absolutely.
So obviously you work from the gut and you work from the mind, but where do you think your two worlds really meet? Do you think they meet at all?
Definitely. Yeah. So me and Cara are really good friends, and we talk all the time. Like, how often do we talk? And whenever we do, we just get lost in just conversation about how mind, body, energy, it's all connected. It all is connected. And something that just Cara said there is, we are the experts of ourselves, and often we're not taught that. We're taught, okay, the doctor said this is what I need to take, or I've gone to the doctors, they've given me antidepressants, they've told me that this is what I need to do, or I'm anxious. And then we carry that and we label ourselves and we think, I'm anxious, I can't do this. But it's like, are we anxious? Or again, looking at things holistically, what are we eating? How are we feeling when we're eating? Because your partner might be eating one thing and it suits them. Maybe it's not suiting you. So how are you feeling? Are you noticing that when you're eating a certain type of food, what's coming up for you? Does it make you, or does it put you in a bad mood? Does it work in the way that it, like, does it digest in the same way that when you're eating something else, it digests in that way? So it's really just listening. You are the expert of you. And tuning into what is it that you need. And for me, that's the most important thing, is tuning into that. But yeah.
I love that. And I think there's that, it's about awareness. And therapy is a beautiful way of increasing our sense of awareness. My invitation is to kind of increase your awareness, your mindfulness, your relationship with this incredible organ in here. And I guess I was just thinking about the meeting place between the head and the gut is the heart.
Yeah, and I love that idea, actually. Yeah.
And I guess one of the big things that I think is really powerful is to bring more kindness into ourselves. More compassion.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we can be so tough on ourselves, especially if we have a history of anxiety or high functioning anxiety. We can be so tough. Our inner critics can be so powerful. Yeah. And to develop a kindness, a self-compassion, that makes change possible and easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And where would you suggest that someone starts? So say there's someone sitting in the audience right now and they're listening to everything you're saying and they're nodding away, but they just don't know how to start. What would you suggest that they do?
I would suggest that you notice when there is an inner critic without judgment. You don't make that bad. You don't try to force it. Have you ever noticed if you try to force something down, it comes up more? Yeah. Just notice. And then I would really I would ask you the question, what is it that you long to hear? What are the words? It might be, I'm good enough, or I'm a good person, or
you're doing a good job today.
Just find what is it that you long to hear. And start to say that to yourself. Start to treat yourself as though you are a friend, a valued, cared for friend. How you would treat a loved one. That's the part of how you need to treat yourself. That's what you want to cultivate. Like, I'm good enough. I'm going to be kind to myself. I'm going to make kind choices about what I eat today.
I matter, ultimately.
I matter.
Exactly, absolutely.
Yeah. And something will resonate for you, like a particular wording. And then when you find it, like really... like say that to yourself and say it in a really lovely way, in a gorgeous, loving, like, really nice.
So great.
Yeah.
And how about you, Dr. Lolita? What would you say if someone was sitting here thinking, yes, I absolutely agree with everything you say, but how do I even start to implement that or even recognize it in myself?
I think often when you start noticing, So you start noticing something doesn't feel right for you. But to go deeper into that, it's very similar to what Cara said, is start with the self-awareness. So start with, how are you experiencing the world around you? What's coming up for you? What do you notice is happening? So if you've gone into a coffee shop, you've ordered a coffee, and the way that the person's looked at you has made you feel a certain way, what has it made you feel? Sit with it. Don't ignore it. Don't blame yourself. Don't say that I've done something wrong and fall into that pattern. Just sit with, like, okay, if my mind has gone into that, what have I done wrong? What have I done wrong? And feeling guilt, feeling bad, just again, start to become curious with it. Start to notice that it's showing up with certain people, or it's being triggered in certain ways, and start to become curious with, where does that come from? So for me, it's awareness to start with, moving into understanding, why is my nervous system right now not feeling safe when this person is reacting or doing or presenting in the way that it is? Because often it's not about the person in front. It's they're doing something that's triggering something within us. So for us, it's just really try to understand and learn from the world around us. So start to become curious with, how are you feeling? What's coming up for you? And then from there, it's then the consciousness of, okay, how do I start to change this? How do, again, as Cara said, is how do I tune into being kind to myself? Or if a friend came to me now and they were saying, this is what's gone on, what would I say to them? Because we are, being high functioning anxiety, we're massive givers. We know how to give to others. We know how to love others, but it's learning, how do I now tune in and give that same love I give to others back to me? And that's the journey that we're on, which life continues to show us.
Yeah, absolutely. So if someone wanted to improve their well-being from the inside out, what really simple daily habits could they start to implement to really kind of make those changes? Cara, how about you?
Oh, so many I want to choose from.
But really simple, yeah. Just one or two.
I'm going to choose two. I'm going to talk about fibre. And
I think Cara wants us to eat more fibre. We haven't talked about poo yet. Maybe this is where we slot that in.
Yeah, let me bring some poo into the conversation. There are not all fibre is equal, but there's lots of different forms of fibre. And when you talk about fibre, what I'm really talking about is plants. I'm really talking about plants. And plants is including fruit and veg, which we all think about. It's also including the lovely legume family, beautiful beans.
Lovely beans.
There's so much research of the power of lentils, chickpeas, all those beautiful things in our lives. Add them into your life. Yeah. If you forget everything else I say, add in some beans to your life. Also spices and herbs, grains. There are so many different plants. There's huge amount of evidence, huge scale studies that have been repeated that if you have over 30 different plants in your diet per week, and that's including spices and herbs like sprinkled, seeds and nuts, if you have over 30, all-cause mortality reduces. Not only do you support your gut health, your gut motility, your gut movement, the health of your poos, because remember, your food moves through a 9-meter long tube.
Wow. I mean, I can't even believe that's in there.
That's like,
I'm only 5
to the end of the It's woven around. Women have slightly longer, curvier colons than men as well, because we have more organs in our abdominal area. It's a bit more kinkier. So, yeah, a bit kinkier.
My colon's kinky.
So you need, and I'm speaking as a woman in menopause, you also need to have enough fibre to move things through the system. Really, really important. Can I say any more about fibre? Diversity and fibre. Can I get one other little thing?
Absolutely.
Okay. Because we obsess about food and we talk about gut health, we often forget the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is about our circadian rhythm.
Right. Okay. Explain that, because I'm not sure everyone will necessarily know what that is.
Yes. Circadian rhythm is your 24-hour body cycle. And the most important part of it is the first time that you get morning light exposure. As soon as you get morning light exposure, natural morning light exposure, which is easy this time of year because we've got lovely natural light in the morning, it starts a whole cascade of physiological processes. Your digestive system wakes up. It's ready to eat. It starts to get activated when you get morning light exposure. Your body is releasing all sorts of hormones to prepare you to be active and awake. It's so important. And I say sky before screen.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, how many of us pick up our phones as soon as we wake up? It's such a bad habit, yeah. So what do you think about these Lumi alarm clocks then? You know, the ones that are supposedly supposed to wake you up with almost natural sunlight. Would that give the same effect? Because obviously in the winter, it's not quite so easy to wake up to a natural light.
Yeah, I think you have to be really skillful in the winter. I think there is, I think the quality of the light, but there is some evidence that they can be helpful, particularly when we're, you know, in the Northern Hemisphere here, it's harder for us to get that.
It's so dark, yeah.
I'm still an advocate if you can have your morning cup of tea, even if it's not light till 8, 9 o'clock, try to get even 10, 15, 20 minutes of light exposure has a huge impact, because the light doesn't just bounce off your skin, it goes into your organs. There's certain wavelengths of light that go through our bodies, which is mind-blowing, and actually wake up our gut microbiome.
Yeah.
And we want our microbiome to know it's morning. And then I'm at risk of going off into lots, but try to move your main eating into that kind of more kind of earlier part of the day.
Rhythmic
into that beautiful circadian rhythm, because your digestive system is more active in the morning into the kind of like midday, and then it starts to get quieter. But most of us in our culture, we have our main meal late in the evening.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some people it's sort of 8, 9 o'clock at night sometimes.
Yeah.
So would you suggest a 6 p.m? Would that be where you?
Yeah,
you would
I'm at risk of going. I could say so much I could say about this, but if I was to say, is also to kind of give the gut a rest overnight. So breakfast is breaking the fast, and it's got that tradition of really allowing the gut to rest.
Yeah.
So having an earlier evening meal, and just resting our digestive system. It's so active. It works so hard. But our digestive system, it likes to take a rest. Mm-hmm. It does really switch off and sleep. It cleans itself at night. It will have a movement that moves through our system to kind of clean and repair the lining of our gut wall. And if we keep eating and snacking late in the night, it struggles to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. That was really interesting. Thank you. And what would you say, Dr. Lolita, about, you know, what would be the sort of the baby steps that people could take without feeling completely overwhelmed by just having to overhaul their life entirely?
So my mind's just like blown from what Cara said. I'm like, there's so many different things. I'm like, oh, there's this, and I can say this, and I can say this, and ask all these different questions. But from a perspective of just daily habits, just things that you can do day in, day out, it's perhaps just starting with 3 gratitudes. What are 3 things that you have had in the day? Because again, sometimes the day goes by, we're going, but we don't stop, we don't pause, we don't feel in, we don't tune in to actually what was really good about today, and how or where do I feel it, where do I notice it. And I remember once I had this client and they came in, they were like, I'm not doing that. And then they were like, fine, I'll do it. And then they started doing it, and then after 2 weeks they were like, nothing, it's not doing anything. I was like, carry on, we're going to carry on, we're going to do it.
Can I ask what it was?
3 gratitudes.
Okay,
so 3 gratitudes every single day.
Yep.
So he did them, he was writing them down day in, day out, day in, day out. Then another 2 weeks went by and he was like, yeah, no, nothing. Then he came in and he was like, I don't want to say this to you. And I was like, go on, tell me. And he was like, I saw a bird on the fence today and something just happened to me inside. He goes, it just felt so beautiful. He goes, but I don't want to tell you because you're going to say you were right all along. And I was like, no, I'm not going to say that.
But yes, I am a little.
But it's just those little things that really make a difference. And they say it takes 28 days to make a habit and make it consistent. So it's not giving up, but really tuning in, like what are the good things that you see? So even just being here today, I know that that's going to be one of my gratitudes, is just being here, being invited here, and just tuning into like everyone who's been here. It's such a beautiful thing being in Birmingham in a wellness space where all different people are coming together. But this moves me on to the second point I was going to make, which is about our tribe. So we now know that loneliness is the highest it's ever been. And when we think of how loneliness impacts on us, it's like having 15 cigarettes. So physically, this is the impact that it's having on us. So what I also encourage is tune into the connections around you, tune into the people around you, make time for those important connections, not the connections where you're doing for everyone, but the connections where you can just be. And maybe you feel like, but I don't have that, or where do I find that? Start putting yourself into spaces. You're here today and there's going to be so many magical people here today that are all in a similar space. So find your tribe. I think that's a really important part.
Yeah, absolutely. I would completely agree with that. So a lot of people, we touched on this earlier, but a lot of people are quietly hard on themselves during the day. What does that inner critic ultimately cost us physically and psychologically? So if I start with Cara, what impact does that inner critic and that constant negativity actually really do?
I'm going to flip that by telling you what happens when we're more compassionate.
Okay.
So when we're more self-compassionate, it actually has an anti-inflammatory effect in our body. It's that powerful.
Yeah.
So we want to, as you know, inflammation is the root of pretty much all of our physical health conditions. It's a huge cardiovascular health, diabetes, dementia. Inflammation is a really big killer in our culture. But when we are compassionate, the evidence shows that we slightly reduce that level of inflammation. It lowers our blood pressure a little bit. It can lower our heart rate a little bit. So if you just practice some self-compassion, some kindness. In fact, I'm going to invite you just to put a hand on your chest, just in a really calm way. And just take a breath, feel your feet on the floor and let that out. Another lovely deep breath in. Really comforting, really connecting. And I know a lot of you are closing your eyes or lowering your gaze. And just noticing. What is it like to turn inward a little bit? A little bit of music, baby crying.
Yeah.
Just that. And if we imagined you, if we had you hooked up and you did that for 5 minutes, honestly, your heart rate, your blood pressure, and that's kindness. It's saying, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Whatever's happening out here, I can't control all of that, but I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm connected.
Absolutely.
So self-compassion.
Absolutely. I love that. Thank you for sharing that with us. That was really beautiful. So what do you think, Dr. Lolita, about what does the inner critic ultimately cost us psychologically?
I'm glad you repeated the question because I got lost there.
I was sitting here thinking, is that the question I asked?
I can hear music as well. This music is so like, it's just relaxing.
It's quite mesmerising.
Yeah, it really is. So I would say The Body Keeps Score. There's a whole book and it's called The Body Keeps Score. And we know that we go through life experiences and it's almost like having a bag that we're carrying. And when something happens, we put it into the bag, we put it into this bag, and we're constantly just walking through life with this heavy bag. And often we don't need to be carrying this, but yet we take it with us. And this can then lead to other things that can happen. They can lead to illness, diseases. So it is really important that we do stop. We do really look after ourselves because the body does take on everything that we're going through it and we're experiencing in life. So if we're caught in intellectualizing, we're caught in just like the doing, it's like I need to come back to self as well, and I need to understand and make space. And that could be a space of, like Cara said, you wake up in the morning just tuning into your breath, like just noticing, and that could be a minute, 30 seconds. If you're going and having your cup of tea, coffee, water, whatever it might be, outside in the garden, or outside in nature. Even today it's raining, it's so beautiful. There's something that again, studies have shown how cleansing the rain can be. So whatever the weather, you're going out, you're getting that sunlight, you're tuning into yourself, and you're giving yourself the space to almost like release. And when we look at animals, they do it beautifully. You see dogs and they shake. They're releasing, they're letting go of the things that they're carrying. But we have lost our way in that as we were going through life. But we find, or things happen in life that make us stop, make us pause, make us really reflect on, hang on, what am I doing in life? And is this the way that I want to continue life? And often when we're high functioning, it's when we get to a place of deep burnout. And that's when the body has been carrying, but it can't do anymore. So you're pushing, your brain is saying, I want to keep going. But your body physically isn't able to. You're feeling really exhausted, you're feeling fatigued, you're feeling tired, you might start forgetting things. So it is really listening to what you need, coming back to self. And it's only sometimes we go through those hard parts of life that's where it teaches us to understand what it is that we need.
Yeah, absolutely. And healing actually is ultimately rarely a straight line, isn't it? So how would you suggest that people deal with those setbacks? You know, maybe someone's wanting to try to make better choices with their food, or perhaps they're starting to want to really look after their mental well-being. How would you suggest that they deal with those setbacks, that, you know, they have a bad day, they reach for the apple pie, you know, how do they ultimately start to then bounce back from that and not just use it as a stick to beat themselves with?
It's a really good question. And I think overall it's keeping things simple. We know that when we have small habits that are sustainable, that we can keep those and continue to make those changes. When we try to do too much, it can be really overwhelming. I also think there's something about sharing it with someone you trust who can really support you. Say, I'm committing to, and my husband's just started running. He's starting doing the park run, which I really recommend down in Cannon Hill. And he's been talking about it for ages. Sorry, David, he's not here today. He's been talking about it for ages, but he started doing it because he had a friend who started doing it with him. And so they're supporting each other. So I think if there's something, I can see some of you going, yeah, you could be my friend, buddy. If there's someone who's like in this space and you're thinking, I've been feeling I wanted to make this change, and you can share it and articulate it and be witnessed and supported, and then in a really loving way, not like a, what, you haven't done the run this week,
what's wrong with you?
You've eaten the apple pie. Yeah. Not that, but much more like, okay, you had a tough week or a tough day, but in a really loving way, they can be witness to you and say, okay, but what do you need to do to pick up that beautiful habit again?
It comes back to that point that you made earlier, doesn't it, about just having compassion for yourself, actually, and just not constantly beating yourself up about the things you get wrong, because actually it is a journey.
Yes.
And it's a process, and you're not going to get it 100% right, because we're human beings at the end of the day, and we do things in a nuanced way entirely. Yeah. And how about you, Dr. Lolita?
I would say we have like all these little characters that live in our head. So we have like the perfectionist, we have the people pleaser, we have all these different parts of us. And if we do something, like we've had a day and you come home and you just like open up a bag of crisps, you eat it, and then afterwards your inner critic comes out and is like, why did you do that? The inner critic then triggers a shame. Shame comes out and is like, oh my God, you're such a bad person. You can never stick to anything. You can never do this. Capture it. Capture that. You know what? It's okay. Like, we live life, things happen. And if we are beating ourselves up for everything that we're doing that we feel isn't perfect, we have to sit with that. Like, what's going on there? And we are human beings and we do fall down and things do happen. But if we're shaming ourselves and we're telling ourselves off because we're not perfect, we need to sit and understand what's coming up there for me. Why do I feel I have to be perfect? And this is the journey of also learning how to be authentic, because maybe you did learn that you had to perform, you had to be a people pleaser, you had to be there for everyone else. So it was never about your needs. It was always about everyone else. So when the perfectionistness comes up and starts shouting at us and tells us off and says that we're a bad person, it's about how, when I feel like I'm a bad person, how can I just breathe, bring myself back into the present moment rather than being in this heightened state, breathe and tune in and start to become more curious with like, what is this? And if this was my friend and they rang me up and they said, I've just done this and I've just done this, would you say to them, you're a bad person? Would you say to them, like, can't believe you did that, like that's really disgusting, like just don't talk to me, I never want to speak to you again? You wouldn't do that. So why do you do that to yourself? So as Cara said, come back to your own heart space and tune into what's going on there for you. That's really important.
Amazing, thank you so much. So we do have a little bit of time for some questions if you want to have a think about whether there's anything you'd like to ask, but I do have one more question for you both, which is, what would you say to someone who has or says they have tried everything but feels like nothing has worked? Cara.
Oh, good question. I would say there's always hope. Mm-hmm. Hope is always there. Yeah. Things can change in an instant. Like really, really they can. And I'm just thinking, as we're talking about all this, and we're like, Lolita and I are so passionate and so sincere, and we, a lot of our work is in service of others. And I also just think, because we know each other well, that there's also fun. I would also want to bring fun into this, being healthy, being well, looking after your gut, reducing your anxiety. It can be so much fun. It can involve dance. It can involve laughter. It can involve doing something that you really, really love. And it's like almost kind of getting your, talking about this beautiful reference about our inner parts. I really agree. We're all complex, aren't we? What does your inner toddler want? What do they want to do? What do they want to eat? What do they want to do? Do they want to roll around in the store? Do they want to jump in in the sea? What do they want to do? And like tuning into the joy of
I was going to say joy, actually, because I think we lose it, don't we? At what point do we stop just running for the fun of it? Or like doing silly dances in the living room. When do we stop doing that?
It's a good question. And if it becomes so serious and so heavy, and we're just trying to make ourselves perfect and fix ourselves, that's not. You're not going to keep that. That's going to that's not the way life. That's not the way life is it? Well,
it comes back to the point you made about the human being versus human doing, doesn't it? If you see it as a thing you need to do, then it becomes a chore. Whereas actually, if you see it as something that is just about being in the most aligned way you possibly can be, then it feels such an easier thing to implement.
Yes, I was just going to say, because I did a grounding circle earlier, I can recognize a few people from the grounding circle, and we got rained on, and I felt like a toddler running around in the rain. we were laughing at each other because we're like, when is it so wet that we actually might need to take shelter, or how long do we stand here and get rained on? But it was really joyful, and it was like, when was the last time we were standing barefoot in the rain? That is such a toddler energy. What a beautiful thing to do. So I think it's like if you feel like you've tried everything and nothing's working, where is your joy? Follow the direction of that. Find people who support that joy and that silliness and that fun and the beauty, because our inner toddlers kind of know how to be healthy.
Love that. And what would you say, Dr. Lolita?
I love about the inner child and the inner toddler. I love.
Let's just all start acting like children.
Yeah, I know. Let's just all stand up and I'll make you do something. But I think there's just something around just tuning in, being authentic, allowing yourself just to be you. Sometimes I have clients and they're like, I would never talk to a stranger and say anything to them. And I'm like, what stops you? It's like, but what if they don't say anything back? And I'm one of them people that when I go running in the morning, I'm like, morning. And sometimes you don't get anything back and you're like, okay. But I don't take it personally. I don't then think, have I upset that person? And I think sometimes it's just going through life being you and really tuning into your energy and not letting things around you stop you from being you, just because someone else might be in a bad mood or someone else might have something else going on for them. Don't lose yourself in the process, because I feel like we can, and the world is very busy and it's easy to get lost, but come back to yourself and tune into what's going on for you, and don't forget to have fun. Fun is a big part.
I love that. Well, thank you both. Does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask of Cara and Lolita? Go for it. Can I give you a microphone though? We've got a spare one. Yeah, amazing. We need to be able to hear it. Just this lady down here, who, by the way, did say she was okay with sitting on the floor. I did offer her a chair.
Yeah, I prefer it. It's fine.
Brilliant.
It's a couple of questions for Cara. I'm dealing with a sensitive gut at the moment and have been for the past 6 months, and I'm getting lots of different
advice. Hold the microphone.
Getting lots of different advice from lots of different sources and people and Instagram and friends and everything, and it can be really overwhelming. And what I'm finding is a lot of people suggesting fasting, which I know can be complicated for women with hormones and everything. But also I'm trying to feed gut microbiome with fermented foods and things, but then having reactions to that, and then reading about histamine. Sorry, this is
just a rabbit hole, isn't it?
Yeah. There's a lot. So it's kind of like, how do you feel about fasting for women who are experiencing sensitivity with gut, basically?
Yeah, I love the question. Thank you. No, and I think you're bringing up something really important, which is it is a really there's a lot out there, and there's a lot of conflicting advice. And I actually find I even follow some experts and listen and talk to experts who I really respect, and they'll say something different from another expert I really respect, and that's because our guts and our gut microbiomes are very unique. And I think trying to offer generalized advice can miss the uniqueness and the specificity of your particular set of circumstances. But to answer your question about fasting, overall, I am an advocate of intermittent fasting or time-restricted eating. I think it's really powerful in a culture where we can eat 12, 14, 15, 16 hours a day. I think it's really helpful to have clear period of time where we're just resting our digestive system. Loads of evidence of that being safe and effective. But I'm also mindful for women, there's a lot of nuance around if you're menstruating in your menstrual cycle, if you're in perimenopause and menopause. I have a lot of caution around women in perimenopause and menopause doing a lot of fasting, because I think we need really good protein and we need to look after our muscles. And so I can't give you a bit a really specific advice to you, but what I would often say is, how does it also feel for you? Because if it feels like you're restricting yourself and it feels like you're depleting your energy, then that's a bit of a red flag. So how does it sit with you? There are, and I'm really happy to chat to you at the end, there are a couple of people. There's probably Dr. Mindy Perez is probably the leader on intermittent fasting, Fast Like a Girl, and I would suggest looking at that, because she's got a particular protocol for women at different stages, whether you're menstruating or not, and that's probably, I would say she's probably recognised as the leading expert, globally around that.
Brilliant, thank you so much.
Amazing, thank you. Has anyone else got a question? Any other questions? No? You've given so much great information that nobody has any questions. So amazing. So thank you both for joining us. A round of applause for Cara and Lolita, please. Are you guys Are you sticking around? Are you sticking around for a
Very
little bit?
happy
So
to, yeah,
I imagine
very
that
happy to.
people, if they didn't want to ask in front of anyone, you might find people. So thank you. Thanks everyone.